Thank God for mothers who push books on their kids.
Exactly. We never had a lot of money, but we always had money for books. That was the trick.
Same here. I don't know if we had money for books, how those books were obtained, but thankfully, I don't know if my mom robbed that supermarket, but I didn't feel like I had a shortage of books. So
it was better in your hands than in your local grocery store.
Yes.
My first question for you, and this is a question, the first one really that came to mind. Your collection's really good.
Thank you.
It's short stories have been like right on the top of my mind. I just read Storyteller, which is
Joyce
but
Carol Oates?
no, it's Kate Wilhelm.
Kate Wilhelm, yes.
Yeah,
I have that book. And I've even read some. Read some of it.
It's very good. And
one of the founders of the Clarion.
And it's kind of like about that. It's kind of like half about the workshop and half here's a bunch of advice from the workshop.
Yeah.
20 plus years, 25 plus years of Clarion workshop. Here's best practices when you're writing stories.
I attended the Clarion workshop back in 2002.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That's even cooler. And I guess it's a what is it?
Before it moved to San Diego.
Not coincidence, but a synchronicity. Yeah.
A synchronicity. Songs with Loch Ness monsters in it. A synchronicity.
Yeah. And I'm pondering a short story idea, and even another novel that I'm working on also has this in it. Almost all your stories play with time, play with traveling back and forth in memory, sometimes literally time travel.
Yes.
And you don't in it, like, it's because I've been thinking about a similar, like, how to tackle this people accessing memories in my own writing right now. It's really on the top of my head. And like, I was looking at how you do it throughout your stories. And sometimes it is, we have, this is kind of deep in the weeds of mechanics, but
let's go.
I know. I love that kind of stuff, which is partially why this podcast exists, but
let's hit it.
Like italics. Sometimes it's, we have an italics that serves as transition point. Hey, we're going into memory. There's also sometimes just a scene break, then we have a memory, and that's a clear demarcation. There probably is another way that you kind of transition between it at a time that I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's really, how do you navigate markers of time in a story? And how do you decide, we are transitioning between the past, present, future. What is the right time to use an italic transition versus a scene break versus maybe a third thing that I haven't mentioned? Is that
great question?
Yeah.
The first answer is, since we did mention workshops, and I'm not dissing any workshop, but it's kind of like, don't try this at home kind of thing. I think one of the good things about workshops, and they're good, but they could also be bad or hurtful, is, there is no right or wrong, but there is like kind of an American Werewolf in London, stay off the moors. I mean, I think workshops will sort of tell you the norms to not get into trouble, because like you said, certain things fall closer into reader expectations and our norms, and playing with time, anything that is not standard or leads to the potential for non-clarity, you can start bumping off readers. Like, certain readers will just read my work and be like, I'm confused, I have to work too hard, or this isn't for me. And that's just fine. But all right, so now let's get to the people who are okay with writers or stories that do play with structure. And I'm not being obnoxious, but I'm like, I have no idea what to tell you, Robbie. But that being said, I will say, just have an awareness that you're playing with fire. Have an awareness, and I go with make it work. And that's read it to you. I'm a big fan of reading it to myself 100 times, reading it out loud. If you're tripping over it, if it's not working for you, or if you're reading it to someone and you can feel that energy where it's not clear, then I don't care what it is, but it's not working, and the the same strategy, be it italics, be it be it a break, might not work for the same thing. I think thinking about it a little bit more as I'm rambling about it, I think you just have to work really hard on the clarity. I don't think any sort of italics, any sort of break, other than like simply labeling it. Sometimes, just to be clear, it's like I literally use like you know this place 1984 because
Yeah.
it's like you just it's that important.
Nice
So
and simple.
but the most thing is it has to be in the writing, like something in the writing to demarcate where the writer gets it, have the transitions be smooth, have the transitions make sense. um because yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, just don't do it, readers. Just don't do it unless don't, or do it with control. Do like know why you're doing it and keep your eye on the ball of that, and keep thinking about your reader, how your reader is going to be experiencing that. So that being said, one of the strategies I've used, maybe I'm not sure if it shows in this book, and I know one strategy that I've thought about, if you're gonna do a flashback, which things that it can very easily confuse or piss off readers, have them be a complete sequence.
Right.
Sometimes even if it's small, have it be a beginning, a middle, and an end, where it feels, it will have that feel, it'll have that thing that it just works before transitioning back. Hope that was helpful.
I mean,
Probably
I was
wasn't.
gonna append like it's, and sometimes I ask questions of other authors, and it's always like, well, it, it's in that specific story.
Yeah,
It works this way
I will tell you,
in this story.
since you did mention you were reading a book on writing, a great book on writing that probably tackles this a lot better than me, and it's one that I read. It is called Beginning, Middles, and Ends, and that's by Nancy Kress.
Okay.
I I highly recommend that book. It's been recommended to me. Probably, um, I don't remember how she addresses it, but I'll be a monkey's uncle if she doesn't address your very question in probably a really good way. She's just a real master instructor, and in that book, it's almost like an encyclopedia of structures, like in a very like
Now
yeah, just a very
I'm definitely, I'm
straightforward,
gonna look that up.
yeah, in a very straightforward way. Like, okay, yeah, here's one
That's what I
structure.
want. I hate advice books, writing advice books that are like, oh, here, magic. I'm like, I don't want magic.
Oh, it's so work.
I want practicable
Oh, it's
things.
so workmanlike and practicable. Check
Yeah.
out Beginnings, Middles, and Ends by Nancy Kress, and will probably delight you.
Yeah. I was also, I mean, like, it's the moving back and forth at time is very effective, and it adds, I don't know, like a very dreamlike feeling to certain stories. They, because they are like wavering in and out of time, and depending on the story, it feels very purposeful. Like, oh, this is a person who is not sure what we're kind of losing touch with reality. What
Yeah,
is real, what's not, where are we, when are we,
I didn't
like,
think
are
about Phantom Constellations as being a book about time, but now that I'm thinking about it, like I'm immediately, there are several stories that used, yeah, that they experience time in different ways. Like, yeah, there's actual flat out time travel, there's unorthodox time travel, there's people lost in memories, and there's people actually traveling to secondary worlds where time has unfolded differently. And I'm like, um, that wasn't intentional thematically, although time, looking back over my Facebook feed, and no, on the memories feature, I could see myself asking those questions to the hive mind, and asking those questions to myself, like, hey, don't do this, but I'm gonna do it. What are different ways to play with time? In one of the stories, which was called A Loch Ness Monster Under the Light of the Southern Cross, it was originally written for, I think the theme of the themed anthology, which it never happened, was supposed to be labyrinths. And I
right.
asked the editor, I was like, hey, is it okay if I don't have a physical labyrinth, or the physical labyrinth is adjacent to the story and my labyrinth is time? So I went out specifically to say, hey, how can I try to capture that feeling of being lost in time, of lost in memory, lost in those sort of things in that particular story. And that was one approach.
I mean, I I like them a lot, and it feels like that's the, I don't know, I don't I do like to pick at collections and see if like I can find through lines of themes and or storytelling
Oh, I think it's fun.
method.
I think it's fun
But
too. Yeah.
and like that's the closest I could come. I feel like it does. There's always that aspect of like I think it's an easy reference for me to always grab is Watchmen, Doctor
Mm.
Manhattan,
Oh
who
yeah,
who
yeah.
sees all time at the same time basically, and like the way
Mm-hmm.
that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons do, like how they communicate that in a comic book. And I'm like, and I'm
Mm.
always thinking about like what's the simplest and most, like you said, clear way to communicate this is a memory, but also not making it clunky and obtrusive
Yeah.
in that story. And it's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, but
And sometimes you confuse
I
people.
think you have your head on straight by just being like, there's no magic, and I want nuts and bolts, and be willing to make it. That's three. If we have to think, don't believe in magic. Focus on the simplicity, the nuts and bolts of what you know as a writer, and be willing to work at it and see what works for the story. And you ain't gonna get much better advice than that. And as
Yeah.
a, or at least a directive.
um I I really do appreciate the and like that's and I've found this multiple times now. I've been like working on something in one of my own stories, and then I read a thing for the podcast. I'm like, this is exactly what I needed to read right now.
Oh,
This is
oh,
exactly the kind of thing I
I'm
needed to like to change my brain chemistry in just the right way.
glad that synchronicity
Yeah,
popped
exactly.
popped up for
Synchronicity
you.
pops up again. Um,
Excellent.
I was gonna ask you about genre.
Yeah.
Um, your the description of the book and your bio, and it's like talks about weird fiction, and which is on, you know, intentionally kind of obtuse. Like what is weird to different people, weird is different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's
do you think about what your work is? Like I could pen like, oh, some of it has elements of cosmic horrors, elements certainly it's weird fiction,
mhm.
certainly has like there are monster stories in here, and like I would say that they're very like I don't know, playful with those the monster tropes, with shapeshifter tropes, things like of that nature. But do you think about that at all as you're working on a story? Do you think like, oh, I am going to be writing this story is certainly, I'm trying to write a cosmic horror thing? Or is it, I'm writing this story. I know these beats of it, and that's as much as I need to know.
More the second. So
Yeah.
the short answer would be, do I think about genre when I'm writing? Short answer, no. Traditionally, no. And part
Okay.
of the reasons for that were I just wasn't well read and just didn't know enough about it. Like I knew what I liked. I didn't have any terms of art for it. Wasn't like didn't study literature or anything like that. Kind of knew I knew what I knew, and was just happy accident of fool's luck. As I started publishing and learning more, and like, um, I started to learn enough more to submit to the right places. I horror adopted me. I submit I submitted to started submitting to Cemetery Dance just sort of on a whim or an accident, and you know I literally was shocked when I got started publishing. I didn't think of myself as a horror. I was like, because my perception of horror was just so inexperienced. I had sort of these mainstream perceptions of horror, and I didn't realize that horror, such a thing as quiet horror or weird horror or cosmic horror. And it was a big epiphany for me. It was back in 2015. It was right on the cusp when my first collection was coming out, which was called The Night Marchers and Other Strange Tales. That's not a plug. That's actually answering your question, because my publisher and I.
You can feel free to
Well,
plug.
it's
Hey,
actually on.
everyone, go buy all Daniel's books, guys. I'm not
But
go
it's
buy them all.
the operative term in there is "and other strange tales," which is lifted directly from author Robert Aikman. I was at a World Fantasy Convention, and someone was like, "Hey, let's go to this panel on Robert Aikman." I hate panels. I hate things. I'd rather chew my arm off like in a bear trap than have to like sit through another lecture. But someone's like, "No, Robert Aikman. He's a cool British author, and Peter Straub and Quinn Yarborough." I'm like, "All right, let's check it out." Literally, was like this huge epiphany for me because Stroud was like, long story short, Stroud was like, Robert Aikman, go read, not to me, to the audience. He's like, go
Right.
read the short story The Swords. Go to the deals room, go buy it right now, read it, go right to your room, read it, and be forever changed. I'm like, all right, that's bold. And I did read it, and literally, one of the few epiphanies that I had in my life, because Robert Aikman stuff, you said, I think you said intentionally obtuse,
Right.
but Robert Aikman is intentionally ambiguous. I don't know what Aikman does, but he's very intentionally not offering traditional structures, and he's very intentionally not explaining the supernatural elements, if any, in there. And that was what I was doing. That was what the stuff I like to read. That was what I was hoping to write. And it was this huge moment for me that I was like, wait a minute, I'm actually doing something that there is a lineage for it. I actually fit in. And it's okay not to fit in, but it's also eye opening to be like, oh, there's a confidence that comes with, oh, I'm doing something. And now, so then to answer your question, do I do this when I write? After that moment, as I become a lot more educated in different structures, different genres, sometimes I do. I don't. That's not where my inspiration lies. But if I come to a
Right.
fork in a story, I'm like, oh, okay. If I explain this way, maybe that's more on the nose horror. Okay, if I don't explain it, maybe it's more weird fiction. Okay, if we do this, I'm starting to be, now that I'm aware of tropes and how and expectations. If I'm stuck or if I want to play, I can play that way. That sort of manifests itself in Phantom Constellations. Is I'm aware of what at least I think readers are going to be thinking of or expecting in sort of the openings of the stories, and that's why you said, oh, you're playful with some things, because my stories don't end where they begin, and often I think the tropes that they sort of present as X, but they turn out to be Y or Z or just question mark as to a genre expectation.
I mean, it's that it was John Langan brought it up in his most recent collection when he was on the podcast. He talked
Mm,
about there's a story he wrote that, and it's called Snake Bit in his most
mm,
recent collection. It's like he walks you through writing a story. Like you read the story he's writing and his thoughts on it as he's writing it.
oh, that's super cool.
And I was, yeah, it's for writers. It's very much like, this is awesome, but in that he like explores the idea of a third ending, which is not the expected ending and not the inverse of that, but a third thing that
Love
is
it.
different. Like, right, that it challenges kind of a reader's expectations while not being
Oh,
disappointing or in some
I
way.
want to rush out and read that because John Langan is such an exceptional fiction author and such a thoughtful teacher and thinker about the genre. So
I
that sounds
I
yeah.
think it's still my favorite episode of the show so far. We're
Oh, I
in the
gotta check
early
that.
days.
Is that called Snake Bite?
Snake Bit is the name of the story.
Snake Bit. Thanks,
It's in
man.
the name of it's in the last story, or the second to last story in his most recent collection, Lost in the
Ah,
Dark, which I'll plug it again because I think it's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Um
Great writer,
yeah,
John
John
Langan.
Langan, yes. I mean, like, yes, everyone knows who John Langan is, but hey, if you don't go, like, when you were mentioning earlier, like, people were like, oh, I've been meaning to buy that book for 10 years.
Yeah,
You're like, hey,
yeah.
if you've been waiting to buy a John Langan book for 10 years, just
Or
go buy it.
put it on
Yeah,
your. It's no shame if it's not on your radar.
yeah, exactly.
It's on your radar now, man.
Exactly. Okay, so this is back to kind of not necessarily overarching thing, but a thing that does present itself in multiple of the stories. And that's animals. Animals, like, becoming focal points for characters, becoming finding meaning in certain animals, and oftentimes these are like I don't know, like archetypal symbols. Where the Jaguar King lives in the dark heart of the wood. That, like, that book and that story in particular, the Jaguar obviously is like this big focal point. But even in the Fourth Bell, with I love, and I think that might be my favorite story is
Ah,
Fourth Bell. I love Fourth Bell. I
ah,
mean, I don't
it's
know if
great.
it's just because it has that little bit of science fiction kind of in it
Well,
that I can, that bleeding in.
you gotta love a sarcastic psychic talking
I
octopus.
exactly. I don't know what it is. I really like it.
Thank you.
I mean, I liked all the stories, but it And I think there's a couple other where there's a lot of mention of like, and a lot of times it's settings in like a desert, and there's the what story is that with the turtle that they save, where they redirect the turtle a couple
Oh, that was in
times. It's
the very first one.
yeah,
Scarecrow and the Imposter is they
right.
save a turtle. Yeah.
Yeah, there's multiple like these animals pop up and they feel like they're like is so there's people finding meaning in these animals, or finding even meaning in symbols, effectively what these animals become for them. Are you searching for that in your writing? Are you searching for characters, trying to find meaning in things? Or is that just a byproduct of writing humanity, trying to capture humanity with character?
Maybe both. I
Okay.
mean, I think it's definitely not maybe, but I think it's both, and maybe in different times. I think because I do want I do want my stories to be about humanity and to be about the search for meaning, even if I'm not intentionally sitting down to write like, hey, this is a story about searching for meaning about this, but also so it is a byproduct, but also uh, yeah, I think the animals come in there pretty intentionally. Maybe because that's the fun part. Maybe that's just like the fun part, or when I'm thinking about, oh, okay, how do I express this? Like often like the settings, the natural world and settings is often where inspiration comes from. So yeah, like that in the story Scarecrow and the Imposter, there is a scene where one of the characters is just showing his lover where he grew up, and there's a box turtle that crosses the road, and before he can get out of the car and save it, it gets creamed. It gets creamed like a football. I mean, this thing gets hit, and
Yeah.
it's just like this tragic moment, and it's like, well, I'm not I'm not a glutton for animal cruelty or punishment, but why are you going to make, as a writer, if we're getting down to nuts and bolts, when I thought about, well, am I going there? Am I going to put this in the story? And at that point, what was a spark of inspiration? Okay, that was something that happened to me. That was something that was haunting me. That was something that felt right to be in the story. But for the word count, is that going to be there? It was the perfect also vehicle for showing like, okay, this in Scarecrow and the Imposter, yeah, we do slip into different timelines. We do slip into different realities, and we need, if that's something the reader's going to remember. Hopefully, this bad thing that happened to the turtle, and thus they can remember it when we're differentiating, just using it as, that's clearly, it's clearly an emotional moment, it's clearly a character moment, but it's also a nuts and bolts moment of like, okay, reader, yeah, how did I demark when this character was in another timeline? I didn't label it, but that turtle that we saw creamed was alive and well in the next timeline.
Right.
You just reminded me that was just one strategy right there.
I mean that's there. I didn't mention it in what we were talking
Yeah.
about, but there are like,
Yeah, let's
it's like
teach that in Clarion. Methods to
turtles,
indicate other use of time. Number one, turtle death.
turtle dead, turtle slash alive.
Dead turtle, live Schrodinger's turtles.
Yeah. But I mean, there's sometimes there are like implicit background cues to your reader that if they're paying attention, they'd be like, oh, that's a
Yeah,
clear thing. That was alive. That was dead. Now it's alive. Like
yeah,
it is a pretty stark contrast,
yeah,
to be, so it should be effective. Um, Considering some readers don't always pick up
yeah.
on everything you say. So you have to sometimes, I feel like, people are like, be subtle. And I'm be subtle. Then no one notices anything I write. So I'm like, okay, don't be too
Well,
subtle.
that's the name. That's also the name. I mean, that's the name of my life right here. In terms of in the kind of fiction that I write, like often they do turn on very subtle things, and yeah, you run the risk of it just not being caught or catching fire for a particular reader. So that's you're
I mean,
laughing. I'm crying.
no,
You're laughing.
no, I
No, no,
know.
no. I'm laughing with you. I feel you.
I
I know
mean,
what
it's
you're
the
saying.
same. I mean, I wrote, I mean, I think every writer listening to this has something in their head where they wrote a thing and they thought, man, this is so good. This is so perfect and subtle and ingenious. And then you give it to people and they read it and they go, what are you talking about?
you ever see Garth Marenghi's Dark Place?
Yes, yes,
I know
yes.
some writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
I quote that a lot.
Yes, I quote that a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes I agree with that. Sometimes I do feel like, yeah, I do want to hit. Sometimes there are moments where you do want to hit people over the head with stuff, but
It's
those
true.
are moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily the entire book, unless the book is, I don't know. Some books are also trying to hit you over the head with stuff, and if that's what they want, that's what they want. We're already running long in this segment, so we'll switch over to the next one. But everyone should
speed answer. I'll speed them up.
No, you're good. There's no rush. Everyone should go read Phantom Constellations. Should go pick it up. Full of great stories. And I breezed through it. Like, really kept my attention. Which nowadays is harder and harder. I am struggling sometimes to focus on stuff I'm reading, and Phantom Constellations did not fail me. It
Thank you.
Kept my attention. It is time for the second act, which is broader bookish questions. And the first question is from our last guest. And I will ask you for a question for our next guest at the end of this. It can be anything. And this is evidence enough of the question I'm about to ask you, which is there, let's see, where do you stand on name brand versus generic cereal?
I like Blueberry.
Okay, but I mean, I think
I might be displeased with generic Blueberry.
Okay, all right, there you go. That's what I'm looking for. When he told me that question, I'm like, well, I immediately have an opinion because I love Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah.
And if someone gives me regular Fruity Pebbles and then gives me the generic Fruity Pebbles, there's a difference.
There's a lot. The fun factor, just like these are Fruit Krispies. These are Whole Foods Fruit Krispies. I'm sure they're delicious, but where's Bam Bam and Dino?
Where's Fred? I need where's my Fruity Pebbles? Exactly. Okay. I'm glad we can be friends. Because people who are there, I know there are people out there like, oh, there's no difference. I'm like, I don't trust you anymore. There's no difference.
You shouldn't. They've been replaced.
They might be. Okay, my first real question.
Wait, that wasn't real?
Okay, it's a real question. This is a more writerly question. It's a question I ask everybody. Who's a writer more people should be reading? And you can give me multiple if you want.
Lucia Shepard and Tanith Lee.
Okay.
Easy answer. No hesitation.
Awesome.
Read them both and be forever changed. Then read some Robert Aickman and Kelly Link and thank me.
Yeah, Kelly Link.
Yeah, everyone reads her, but
everyone reads her, but she's great.
If you haven't, do it. Karen Russell, you Florida writers. Karen Russell. And
that's the second time someone's plugged Karen Russell on the show.
Great, glad to hear it. Karen Russell.
Karen Russell's great. Kelly Link, Roger. I'm like writing all these down. Robert Aickman. Robert Aickman.
Yeah,
I already wrote down Robert Aickman's name. I'll write him down again.
Yeah, definitely write him twice.
I'm gonna try and put a link to all this stuff in the show notes for people if you want to go find at least a work from these folks. I literally just put a Kelly Link book on my Christmas wish list. Maybe folks. Maybe my dad might buy me a Kelly Link book.
Yeah, she's got some free audiobooks out there on like Podcastle and Pseudopod. On Podcastle, there's a story. It's not a zombie story, but it's called Some Zombie Contingency Plans, and that's a great example of a story that presents one way but is another way. And it's a great, if you're like, what are these guys talking about? Intentional ambiguity. There's intentional ambiguity in that story, even though it's amazingly fun and so easy to read. But then you're like, wait a minute, was that this, or what was going on with this one element in the background of this kind of wacky, zany story? Some Zombie Contingency Plans, Kelly Link.
Some zombie contingency plans. I'll try and put a link to that in the show notes too.
Yeah, it's on Podcastle and in her books to support her.
Yeah. What was your gateway horror media?
What do you mean, like books or films or?
Anything. Movie, could be a movie, book.
Were we talking about it on the air or off the air? The Stand by Stephen
I think it
King.
was off. I don't think we got there
I think we
yet.
were talking about I think one summer my mom brought home from the grocery the grocery line when they used to sell paperbacks and was like, "Here, son, have a large fat book and read it this summer." And it was The Stand by Stephen King, and I'm like, I think that was my first Stephen King book, and probably probably one of my first horror books besides like Edgar Allan Poe, like in school and like that kind of thing. But yeah, that was my gateway. My second gateway was not long after that. I was looking for more in my local library, and I took, just by judging a book by its cover, I pulled The Jaguar Hunter, a short story collection by Lucia Shepard, and Dreams of Dark and Light by Tanith Lee off the shelves. Arkham editions, these beautiful covered editions off the shelf, and just from the covers, and was forever changed as well.
Okay, awesome. That's the very smart answers for your first exposure.
Smart or not, they just are what they are.
I know exactly,
but I stand by them.
I mean, I mean, like, I don't know. My answer was like Goosebumps, so it's like it's a little, I don't know. Well, Goosebumps is still great.
I'm just of a different generation. I missed that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, what. I think that's probably why Goosebumps was so revolutionary, because kids before then didn't have such an easy.
There was a need, and I'm sure that it filled it. But I missed it
just narrowly. Young whippersnapper.
Those kids and their Goosebumps.
Those kids and those Goosebumps. What was the last book you read that evoked a visceral, physical reaction?
Oh, I was hoping that, it's right here.
Awesome.
This, I'm really into ghost stories, as you can tell. This is Conjunctions 83, edited by Joyce Carol Oates and Bradford Morrow, the ghost issue. And the last story, it's got some great people in here, but the last story is by Jeffrey Ford. Holy shit, I was reading it out loud to my friend in a coffee shop, like, "Hey, I got this thing, you want to hear a good story?" Sure. And I'm reading it, and we're like, I could tell, like, "Jeff Ford, what are you doing? Are we falling? Is the top gonna fall this way?" And he nails the ending and just gut punched my friend and I. We were just like, fuck. Just like, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, hit you like a ton of bricks. So the name of the story is called Plunged into Years by Jeff Ford. You should have him on your show. Jeff's an awesome guy and just one of the best writers there are. And, when you're batting cleanup in the ghost story issue, when you're batting cleanup on stories with Margaret Atwood, Carmen Machado, Brian Evanson, Stephen Jones, Paul Tremblay,
that's quite a list.
And then it's quite a list. And then your story is batting cleanup. That's saying a lot. So
yeah,
three cheers. Three cheers for Jeff Ford.
I'll immediately look up that story.
Yeah.
So let's see. What's the next one? What's the best piece of advice you followed?
One of my very first writing teachers, before one of those Clarion, I attended the Clarion workshop a good 25 years ago, and the first teacher was like, "You're about to hear a lot of advice," and I think she was like, to not follow the tyranny of some of that advice. She's like, there are going to be some people who are going to swear by stuff, and you're going to not feel it. So to like get a heads up that there's going to be different kinds of advice, and it's up to you to sort it if it works for you or not.
It's very, very, very prudent to know when something will work, or to know, hey, I should try this, and if it doesn't,
I don't think it's quite that. I think it's more of just knowing, of knowing, like I think in Stephen King, his great book on writing is like, yes, to be a writer, you write 5,000 words a day. Make sure they're good words, rinse and repeat, or you're not a writer. I'm like, okay, I'm not a writer.
5,000 a day is a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love Stephen King, but I'm just like, well, that's just an example of it, because he's being helpful, because he's like, that's what I do. I just write 5,000 words a day. I don't stop until they're good words, and then that's what I do. I'm like, great, that's awesome. I have laundry to do and and a day job,
Yeah.
and like like to do a sound check for this podcast and to like try not to collapse and all
I
that
have to
good stuff.
navigate my life, man.
Yes, exactly.
I don't have, I can't do 5,000 a day.
Exactly. Let's hope for the year.
I was gonna say it depends on the some days are better than others.
Yeah,
Some days
but
you
yeah,
get
definitely
more.
sort your advice and don't be crushed by all the stuff that's out there. Don't let Protect your head, protect your headspace, because that's what's so important for you. Now I'm giving advice. I'm not saying advice.
I mean, that's hey, man, that's people want to hear it.
All right.
It's very
Well,
helpful.
protect what you put in this day of social media. In this day of, we were talking about earlier, of like the next release. What's that? Like
Yeah.
protect your inspiration, protect your head, protect what your interests. I mean,
Yeah.
by all means, experiment and check it out and have fun. But I don't know how, but protect yourself. If that means whatever you got to do to protect. If it means logging in or logging off, or listening to this, not listening to that, or being good to yourself, or I don't know.
Take care of yourself.
Take care. You kids and your goosebumps, take care of yourself out there.
Take care of yourself. I mean, I tell people that all the time. Like, you have to function.
Yeah.
Do not do things on yourself on a daily basis that keep you from. It's like when people say like I can't keep up with social media. Well, that's okay. It's not. You don't need to.
Then stop.
Stop, man.
Stop
Yeah,
right
it's fine.
now.
Log off.
Yeah.
I'll do one more question. What's your favorite and least favorite thing about your own writing?
Maybe it is that since rather than like thinking about it way too hard and waxing poetic on it, I'll just say it is the fact that it is its own thing. So I love that I have that confidence, or I just that luck that it is its own thing. So that makes it great to stay inspired and to be connected to it. But then when it comes time to market it or share it, it's like, oh, okay, now we got a little work. We got some work to do now. But that's kind of a lie, because I like doing that too. But it sounds good. That's a good answer to your question.
I mean, I think there's a lot of writers who, I think as long as we're selling a book, like it's working, whatever we're doing for marketing, if it works, like it gets some people to buy books for us, we're happy. But when we're trying to do stuff and we're spending a lot of energy that could be, this is at least reflective of my own feelings, is if I'm spending a lot of energy trying to market and sell a book and it's not working, or I'm not, or social media is throttling me, making sure no one can see me, things like that. That's when you're like, ugh, yeah, what is the point of this? I just want to write, man. I just want to write my story.
Then then write. Like there's no,
yeah.
Yeah. The eternal paradox on that.
But I mean, your stories are very, like, I don't know. I would use the word bespoke.
I'm gonna look that up. Thank you.
For your style, for these, feels very. I immediately can hear your voice. I think that's the other, like that's the. I can immediately feel like, and that's the thing. A lot of writers really like. It's a thing I try. We all strive for like. This.
Yeah, I think voice is important, and I feel like looking back when I first started publishing, and what was the line between when I wasn't publishing and what maybe, and I think it was when it clicked on me what voice was, and I hadn't understood that at that point. And I'm just thinking about it when around that time I had some friends or other colleagues were like, oh, I'll read your story, and they just couldn't read it. Like they just could, just stumbling over it. And I'm like, oh wow, that's like my own, because it was just my own bizarre syntax, or even just on a sentence level that copy editors beware. But at least I feel, but I guess I have a bespoke voice, but I don't know grammar. I don't know grammar or structure. But
I mean, I don't know. There's this is a thing that stood out to me in these stories, is that there's not a lot of commas, and I write. I have so many commas, and I cut out a lot of them, but there's still a lot. And then I read your prose, and it is very poetic. And works really well, but there's these, it's just when I'm looking, I'm like, I would have put a comma here, like, because I'm an insane person.
No, because you actually know grammar,
yeah,
and
no, I
you
don't know
actually
what that.
no. I had someone recently read the book and was just like, dude.
I mean, if it works, it works, and I think that's the thing. It still works, and I love reading things that are very, at least even in style ways, that are very different from my own writing. What is your question for our next guest? It could be anything.
Wow. Does the name Tom Carvel have any meaning for you? And if so, what is that meaning?
Tom Carvel?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a real question. It's the most real question there is.
Okay. I hope they know who Tom Carvel is. I'm gonna guess they don't know who Tom Carvel is. It'll be okay.
It'll be another way of testing time and geography.
Well, we will, if they do know,
yeah,
that's great. If they don't, we'll do a little dive for the audience.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to be there for that.
I'll give you a heads up.
I'll give you
a heads up about it. What happens? That's good. That's it for the second segment of the show. That's it for the second act. We can move on to our final segment. It is time for blood. It's time for struggle. It's time for trouble, for hardship, for problems. But could be about something you're working on. Could be about business problems. It could be philosophical problems. It could be nuts and bolts. It could be anything. What do you have? You got anything?
I got everything.
Everything. You don't have any problems?
I guess, like, I guess I have so many problems where I've just been through every problem there is, where I'm just on to the solution, where I've stopped. It's like one of those Marvel movies. You ever see the Marvel movie The Avengers, the one where there's the Hulk? The Hulk, the character,
Yes,
Hulk. And at the very end, okay, I don't know. And then
I love the Avengers.
Okay. So
I love Marvel.
And so at the end of I think it's the first Avengers, where Tony and Bruce Banner are like, "Hey, you've been really good. Like, you haven't hulked out for so long. Like, what's going on? How do you stop being angry?" And he's like,
I'm always angry.
I'm always angry.
That's that's my secret,
Cap.
That's
a secret. Yeah, that's what he. Yeah, I think he says it to Iron Man. So I'm like, that's kind of the thing. I have so many problems that I'm so I've just stopped seeing them that way. It's just processed now. So I don't. I just wanted to quote the Avengers.
I'm always angry. I mean, it's the is it? Do you think it is? It is that exposure to different problems with
I think a lot of it has to do with like experience and having strategy and making decisions on it. That's why I wasn't being sarcastic. Like, hey, throw a topic at me, I'll try to reverse engineer it. I guess talking about Phantom Constellations. So maybe I didn't see it as a problem, but the first story, Scarecrow and the Imposter. Okay, yeah. So it's a story. It is a story about time. It is a story about alternate selves. So I guess that was a story that was in my queue for a long time. What I mean by in my queue, I like to have a story done in my mind, like be able to tell it to you, like, hey, Robbie, here, I'm going to write a story about this. And I'd want to tell you the whole story, just be able to sit there and tell you that story. So in Scarecrow and the Imposter, originally I was sure that was going to be a story about a guy, and he's, suffered, loss of his partner, loss of the love of his life, and he gets to go into another dimension and meet his alternate self. And I thought for sure the story was going to be, he has an opportunity to kill his other self, but out of the goodness of his heart and to support his love, who's alive in this other dimension, he doesn't kill himself, and he goes back and lives a sad life. And I'm like, that's fucking lame. I was just like, and I thought for sure like it was so great, but as I was sitting down to writing it, I was like, I've heard this before. It's so on the nose. It doesn't feel emotionally right. So that was the resulting story, which is not the story I told you,
No.
the decisions, I was like, so I guess the problem was just having. I didn't see it as a problem because I was doing it, but maybe at one point I was like, the problem. Hey, the problem was, the story I came up with that I had reached this reverential status in my mind. It expired by the time I said to write it down, or either I grew as a writer, or I just was like that to so I just had the problem or the solution of just critiquing yourself and not being afraid to second guess yourself and then change course on that.
I mean, the it is good to. I mean, I feel like there is that I don't know, that surety that, oh, I know I can, if I encounter a problem with a story, and I will. You almost always do encounter something, even if it is an easy birth, as I would describe sometimes, where you're like, oh, this kiss came right out. There are still little tiny things around the edges, even where you're like, what do I do here? What do I do there? Those, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily, big challenges, but they are questions. Like, how do I handle them? And there is, I don't know, as you write in more and more, there is that surety of, not even if you've encountered that problem before, but you've encountered enough problems in your writing that you go, oh, I know I can lick this. I can beat this isn't a trouble. I can do
Yeah, yeah, I
this. I
think,
can handle that.
no, no, no. Even if it's like I got to stop for today and take it
Right.
fresh tomorrow. So I know I'm at this point. I know that's what I'm gonna. I could spin for the next 2 hours, or I could wake up tomorrow, and then it's just gonna be there. Just knowing yourself, knowing your process, and knowing what your solutions to those problems are. So
Right. Um, I guess this is connected to this, but are you writing stories specifically for calls? Are you working on another collection? Or are you doing both of those at the same time? Or
very.
is there a plan?
There is no plan.
Okay.
But normally I just don't write for calls
Okay.
because I don't get invited. B, I see the ones I like too late. Or C, I just feel like it's like, oh, now everyone's got this haunted pizza store, I don't know, or whatever it is. So, Phantom Constellations. So yeah, that was the thing. I, I'd like to think now that I'm writing, I would love to just write a collection for a collection's sake. And Phantom Constellations was as close as I got to doing that. Because I have a great publisher. When I turned in the book, and I turned in the book on time, I was like, hey, maybe we'll have to cut this if I'm giving too much inside baseball. But I'm like, when is the exact date? What's the date you got? What's the date the team's going to work? I turned it on time. I did my part, but you're not going to work on this book now. Like, what's the date you guys are going to start working on it? And they were like, oh, it's going to be X date. I was like, can I write until that date? Can
Keep adding.
yeah, can I add more stories? And I was able to. Like I love the book I turned in, but I got to add more stories to it. And at that point, I was very. It was a very not organic process. It was very like, what are the stories that are going to make this book a better book, or a more full to the vision of a book. So if it wasn't necessarily a problem, that was a nuts and bolts thing, or
Right.
it was a thing, So that was cool. So yeah, I feel like I have I'm not writing at the moment, but I'm always writing, and like, okay, I'm just collecting inspiration right now. I'm very much just taking a deep breath from doing that and focusing on the other part of it, like, yeah, doing these conversations, getting the book out there, but meanwhile collecting which is the next story in my queue that's going to be written, so
Right. Is
I
there is there, like, you say you're collecting? Is that completely informal? Is there like, well, is there like, let's say, oh, you get
it,
struck out of the blue out of, I have an idea for a novel and it's so
it's
exciting. Is that gonna, are
it's
we you
both. It's
would
both. It's both
okay.
things. So it's like I do have like I I'll go to my grave with like a list of stories and have written ideas. So I have that well to draw on versus just living my life and being open to, oh yeah, but I want to write that pizza story, and just doing that. Plus also, yeah, there are markets that like, oh, I've never had a story here, I've never had a story there. I'd like to have a story here again. I'm also trying to like wanting to write things and well, not write for the market, like use the sorting hat, like just be like, oh, okay, this is a journal of they like the quiet horror, then yeah, they're not going to want this is a more on the nose traditional idea, or versus like, oh, this is a more traditional market, but they're sort of open to. I'm just trying to. There are certain markets that like yeah, I probably shouldn't say any of them by name, but
You
I was
can't.
just, I was just about to. Then I'm like,
You won't hurt anyone's feelings.
let's ixnay on that. Not that
I mean,
it's bad.
it's always interesting to me how so many different writers have these entirely different mindsets about what the next project will be and how they think about it, how they're, a lot of times you're like, oh, I'm not writing, but you are
Yeah,
thinking. You're thinking, you're like
yeah.
planning. You're like, oh, well,
Oh,
that's an
I'm thinking
idea.
about it. I see the
Yeah.
world in dramatic structure. I look at things and I'm just like, everything around me gets sorted into dramatic structure, and you just have to stop. So,
Right. I mean, but it's like I'm a very calculated. Like I know that I'm working on this project, and then right after that, I'm going to be doing this, and then I'm going to be doing
mm,
this, and then doing this, and then if this happens, I'll be doing that. And then there's a lot of then there are people like, well, yeah, I'm not.
mm.
I know I have these broad goals I'd like, but also like I want to write these stories, and that's what I'm going to be pursuing whenever that happens. I am not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a mix of that. I do have like some books that I have to turn in, and
Right.
very grateful for that, and grateful for
Anything you're allowed to talk
general.
about, or is
Yeah,
that
yeah, I do have a
okay?
novel. A novel. It's coming out from Lev Press. It's called Servant of the Eighth Winds, and it's just been delayed because of me just getting in my final edits. And Lev Press, Steve Berman, is just a very generous. He's a very generous publisher, and also I think a very smart publisher in that he's like, instead of just being being very rigid on our original plan, and it's great that he works with his authors to make a plan. He's like, well, I want this book to be the best book that it can be, and he delivered to me a great set of notes. And wow, when you get a great set of notes from an editor, you want to do it, and it's just been slow in doing that. So
When do you have a timeline at all for that, or is
I
that
think,
next year?
yeah, it's very possible that'll be 2026 unless
Okay.
unless I drag my ass, and then
Okay.
yeah. So it's supposed to be next year if I
Okay.
if I meet my deadlines, which
Right. I'm honestly keeping
yeah.
track because I want to bring people back
Thank you.
onto the show as they release things,
I'd be happy.
occasionally.
I'd be happy to come back.
I like the idea of having reoccurring people come back a year or two, between, whenever they have a new thing coming out, have them show up.
Fantastic.
Some people have like, they are so prolific that they have,
Right. Hey,
4 books coming out next year. I'm like,
yeah,
well,
it's
that's
been
a
a
lot.
week. It's been a week. My next book,
I'm
it's
like,
amazing.
yeah, I'm like, I mean, I'm also
But
pretty
that's
prolific,
great. That's
but
great. That's great
yeah, but
for readers who, if you have what you love and you can get a lot of it, So that's also amazing.
I don't know. I don't know. I certainly feel pressure to get things out.
Pressure is real. Pressure is real, right?
I mean, it's a lot of it self-imposed. It's
Well, wherever it's coming from, it's real, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. It certainly is real. I would say that you going. I don't think here. This is my take on it. I don't think you don't have problems. Let's say with at least nuts and bolts problems with your work. I think you're just at a point where you.
I've internalized my solutions where I don't that they turn the solutions are there,
Right.
and I've seen. I had a writing teacher, who was a great writing teacher, and he was like, I wanted to take a class with him for a long time, and he was just like, okay, here's how we write a story. He's like, you pick a character, and then you follow them in your mind, and then you write about them. I'm like,
Oh no.
what? I'm like, that's because you're you. That's because you are you. But because he internalized all these amazing. Granted, he also was able to like not do it that way and just like have great specific nuts and bolts advice. But at first, I was
Right.
just like, I was glad he did that, because I was like, oh, you've just been writing for so long, you've internalized all these writing lessons. But now I'm like, all right, can you communicate? Can you not be you? And can you? And he was able to. In fact, he
Right.
was able to in an amazing way. But at first, I was just like, ah.
I mean, that is incredibly. I've started to run some writing seminars, and like you say, having that stuff in your head, you're like, you can, as you're writing it, you can puzzle out. You're like, oh yeah, this is the answer to this.
But that was the way this particular person did
Yeah.
it, because I'm like, because you are such a writing machine, you're such a reader and a writer and such a talent that you're able to do it. And he was being totally honest with that. But luckily, he had the foresight to understand, like, okay,
Not everyone works like that.
yeah, now we'll just start unfolding it, and yeah, he just had an amazing command of language and syntax and grammar and all down the line. But yeah, this is also like
Communication.
it's magic. Just tap into the magic,
Oh
and then
no. Oh
do
no.
it.
That turns me off sick fast.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so
I,
bad.
I don't like I don't like anyone's like, oh, you just got to tap into your spiritual. I'm like, I don't know what that means, man. I'm trying to write a
But
story.
hey, you know what? If that's not for me,
Right.
but some people, yes. Tanith Lee apparently channeled all her stuff. Supposedly, like, she would dream it, wake up in the morning, and write it. For all, I never spoke to her, but for all people who knew her, that was the way it happened. And Robert Aickman didn't talk a lot about his technique either, but a lot of people seem to say that it came a lot from just, it pretty much was that. And
I mean,
but I feel like you have to have great skill enough, to not just be like, me like story, me Pebbles, Bam Bam, Fruity Flakes, not generic.
We're bringing back Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe those people. Like, I don't think they're lying about what works for them.
They're just great writers. I'm just not good enough to be able to.
I need to channel whatever they've got, apparently.
Yeah, or I have to work for my drafts. I have to write. If you saw like the first draft of what I'm writing, God, I hope when I die that it's all destroyed, because it's not English, man. It's literally not English. It's just a mess. I have to write hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drafts. I have to work for it.
I mean, but you puzzled that out, and I think that's the thing. Like,
That's
it's
just me, and
experience.
I'm cautious about telling that to other people. Like, if you're if that makes sense to you, then you should do it that way. If you spin gold, and there are some people who spin gold, then you should spin gold.
I mean, it's even coming back around to what you were saying about how to demonstrate time and memory and stuff. It's like there is like this very safe advice of like, you do it this way,
Yeah.
and people will always understand you.
Right? Don't do it.
Yeah, but then when you come, there's sometimes where like there's people who are like, oh, I write one draft. There's people there are people who do that, who just write one draft, and they make sure it's perfect that first time, and they don't get bogged down. And like, if I try to do that, I get bogged down. I'd never finish a thing. But those people can do it, and I go,
and they should do it.
Yeah, exactly. It works for them. I don't. If it works, it works. Don't touch it.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Flew by in a flash, as they often do.
It was time well spent. What a pleasure it was.
Before we go, Daniel, tell people where they can find you on social media, if anywhere, wherever you'd like people to follow you, and where can they find Phantom Constellations and your other work.
Yeah, I have a website. I think it's called Blood and Stardust at WordPress. bloodandstardust.wordpress.com.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's it. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram under my name. You can get Phantom Constellations where you buy books. CemeteryDance.com. You could get it direct from publisher. You could get it at the Big A. You could ask for it at places like the Green Hand Bookstore, or hey, even ask for it at your local bookstore. They could order it. That's the way to go.
I really wish. I don't think people do it, but
some people do.
Okay.
Some people do. I'd like to think they do.
I feel like that's I really do want to see people who are listening, go to your local bookstore, and if there's a book that they don't have, they can order it for you, and they can get your business. And yes, you have to wait a little bit, but
yeah,
But
Yeah, I
they
like to do that on my. I do a YouTube thing. It's called Nighttime Logic, and I like to ask all the guests what their local bookstore, if they have a place like that. Mine, I'm in New York, and there's just a lot of shitty ones that don't support. No, like there's a lot of bad practices, like charging indie authors for shelf space. It's not
yeah.
supportive. So I don't have a hometown, but people like the Green Hand, like they and other places, like there are some great indie bookshops that can, yeah, if you don't mind waiting a little longer or maybe even paying full price, God help us, for a book, you can do a good thing, or you can discover like treasures there. Like the Green Hand Bookstore, they can curate a gift pack for you or for someone on your gift list, or recommend something. And how great is that?
Exactly. Support your local bookstores.
Or
Find
not, or support, or just go out and get it the way you like to get it. Or
that's
I do both, man. Like,
that's
can't
true.
wait. Must have it now. Come deliver it by drone down my chimney right
Drone down my
now.
chimney. It is Christmas time.
Give me all the
Oh,
Tennessee
now,
now.
exactly. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. Thanks for having me.